The microphone's kind of, so it's having some difficulty. Okay, so can everyone hear me still?
Yes,
Okay, he's having difficulty with the microphone, so we're gonna go with this. All right, so welcome to the second part of 1,000 Points of Light. I am the author, Mark-Vincent Jackson. I'm thrilled to be here with you again today. So first of all, let's just go over what it's about. So, beautiful and determined, an outcast Senegalese woman clings relentlessly to dreams of her beloved savior, a lost folklore hero returning to her from across the ocean. Broken but wise, a devoted griot painfully witnesses and faithfully tells her dogged plight, loving her from afar and mostly in vain. Committed American volunteers zealously navigate a developing, culturally rich African country, becoming intimately immersed and sometimes unwittingly entangled. Alienated and frustrated, one unsuspecting volunteer bitterly chronicles his uneasy experiences with unsparing criticism. A desperate journey, an unspoken heart, patriotic dedication, and a candid diary lyrically meld into a seamless mystical reality with surprising results. Inspired by his U.S. Peace Corps service during George H.W. Bush's presidency, 1,000 Points of Light, Mark-Vincent Jackson's insightful debut novel, is an artfully written and engaging tale of interwoven lives and voices in 1980s Senegal. It magically recounts an unappreciated Fatou Ka's burning quest to be reunited with her true love, who turns out to be Malcolm Lavelle King, an unlikely, tragic anti-hero from Los Angeles, serving as a disgruntled development volunteer. So welcome. So first of all, we're going to use my website to navigate today's reading. So here. Okay. Okay, that's us today. All right. So.
I'm not sure if your sharing is coming through.
Okay, let's see. I'm not sure.
You'll need to click the blue share button in the bottom right corner after you locate your screen.
Blue. Okay, let's see. I forgot how to do this. Okay. There? This one?
You don't see it.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry.
No problem. If you click the green share screen at the bottom and then choose your screen with your website, then click on the blue share button. There it is.
There it is. Okay.
Thank you, Delina.
Now, are you seeing it?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. So it's what I just said. And this is an even briefer blurb about it. So why don't we, we're going to assume a little prior knowledge. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to go over maybe two videos. One is about using Wolof, and you're going to learn some greetings. And the other one is about the tea ceremony in Senegal. So we're going to start there.
And if you're sharing a video, if you can also just make sure that you click the share with computer sound.
Yeah, it didn't go to the video yet, so let me see what's happening. Try it again. Then I will share.
Okay, with the checkbox that says share with computer sound.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's not going right there automatically. So I will have to cut and paste. Hold on just a second. Please bear with me.
It's kind of like an introduction. You want someone? Hi, I'm
Okay. Um,
Precious. Hello. Hi, I'm Precious. Hello, I'm Simon. And this is more passion than perfection. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about war.
Mark, we're not seeing the video.
You're not seeing the video.
Yeah. We sent it into like 10.
You should know.
Al?
So I think one of the most important ones would be yes and no.
Yes.
Yes.
So, no. So yes and no. So yes in Wolof translates to wow.
No is did
Did
it. Did it.
Okay, moving on to thank you. So if someone does something nice, you're like, thank you.
And that's Jira Jeff.
Yes. Jida Jeff. There you
So
go.
if it give you a nice meal to eat, say Jira Jeff.
Jida Jeff. And the response to that would be Yonkobuk.
Nyokobuk.
Nyokobuk. We're all learning. Nyokobuk. Yes. you
And
have to
that
like,
translates to we share it.
Yes.
So we share the thanks
Right,
and
we
so
share the
it's
thanks.
Nyokobuk. Nyokobuk.
Nyokobuk.
So
Because of the
Jida
accent on
Jeff.
the end, he goes Nyokobuk.
Jira Jeff.
Nyokobuk.
Jira Jeff, precious.
Nyokobuk. Yay. Okay, so another one that we should know is
Baluma. So Balma, it's kind of saying like, excuse me, it's like, oh Balma, if I bump into you.
Like my
Bal-
bad, like oops, like
Like,
yeah.
And then it could also be sorry. And
Balma.
some ways please, but not
Rarely
really
used that way
right.
in my observation so far.
So it's
yeah.
mostly when someone says Balma, it means like excuse me or sorry.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry about that. Yeah, so
Balma.
Balma. Okay, moving on to some phrases that we think you should know. One would be
You say I don't understand Wolof,
yes, I don't understand.
which is Deguma Wolof. Deg is to understand. Uma is like negation, and Wolof, Deguma Wolof. And then to say I don't speak Wolof is Ohahuma Wolof. And then you could go to I don't know Wolof, Hamuma, and then but Deguma Wolof is one of the easiest ones, and you say Balma Deguma Wolof. There you go.
Ah, my bad. Excuse me. I don't understand.
Stand,
Wolof.
Wolof.
Yes.
Another
Okay.
phrase we have is Babenenyo, and this translates to until next time. But it's also if someone is asking you for money and you don't have money to give, you say Babenenyo, which is more culturally appropriate than saying no. You say Babenenyo, which means until next time. So example, if a little kids ask you for something, you can give them food or give them money, but if you don't have at that point, you can say "babenenyo," which means until next time, like I'll give it to you next time. And it's just more culturally appropriate than saying no.
Yes, as well as when you're going shopping or something, someone's like, "Come check out my store," or like, "I'm selling this product." You would be like, "No, thank you." No, but rather you'd be like, "Babenenyo." Yeah. Okay, so the next one is kind of like an introduction. So when you meet someone and you're like, they ask you your name, what's your name? And
Nangatud.
yes, so it's Nangatud, which is like, what's your name? Yeah, and then insert name, Latude. So it'd be like Precious Latude.
Yeah. So you can hear Naka Ngatud
Yes.
or Nangatud, and don't be surprised, you may also hear No Tud as well.
Yes. Okay, so one of my favorite ones is actually the ones that go like, they're like 3-syllable ones. It goes like Lilan La, Kikan La, Fifan La. Okay,
That was a lot.
so Lilan La is basically what is that?
What is this?
What is that? Like, oh, what is that? And like someone's like eating something, like, what is that? Like, what are you having? What are you eating? Like, or someone's at a, yeah, so like, what is that? So
you know,
Lilan La.
like L would be for objects or things, and then K would be for people, and F, I don't know what I mean that, would be for places.
Yes.
So Lilan La is,
What is that?
and Kikan La.
Who is
this?
that? Who is this? Yeah. Like, who's at the door? Who is
Like,
it?
who is this? And if you see someone, you're like, oh, who is this? Like, and then you can say
Fifan. Oh.
Fifan La
Yeah.
is, where is this? Where is
Like,
that?
where is that? Like, where are you talking about? Yeah. So,
Just say, what if you with like pictures of different places and you're like, Fifan La, Fifan La. I'm like, sure, why not? Following up on that, you have Ana Wanagbi. And that is, where's the toilet? I think that's a key one. So Ana Wanagbi. So Ana means where, and Wanag is toilet. So you can say, Ana is like used with any noun. So you can say Ana Precious, so where is precious? So you can say Ana École, where's school? Or Ana Class, where is class? Or Ana Supermarché, Ana Boutique,
basically,
Ana
where,
Bank.
yeah.
Anna, things like that.
Wherever you're looking for, like, Anna, and then just put that in there.
So you can find directions, things like that.
Yes. So thanks for sticking with us. So
And let's
here's
just,
what we've done so
far.
far.
Like a quick review of everything. So
Yes and no.
Wow, did it.
Yes. And we do thank you,
Jada Jeff.
and then you're welcome, which translates to we share the thanks. We share it.
So Nyokobuk.
Yes. And then excuse me is,
Balma.
there you go. And then we go on to I do not understand Wolof.
Deguma Wolof.
Yes. And then until next time.
Babenenyon.
And then what's your name?
Nakangatud.
Precious is my name. My name's Precious.
Precious Latude.
Yes. And then we go to the 3-syllable ones, which is Linlan. Where is it?
Where is it is Fifanla.
Yes. Who is this?
Kikanla.
And then what is this?
Lilanla.
There we go. And then the last one is the Anna that we just discussed. Anna, like where? Sorry, I said it in Wolof. Where? So like location, where?
So where's the bathroom will be Ana Wanagbi.
There we go.
So where's the post office? Ana Post B.
There we go. So let us know if you have any questions and if this was helpful as an introduction to certain different words.
So like, subscribe, and just let us know what more you want from us. So, bye-bye.
Okay, so now you got some basic Wolof. And in the book, I use a lot of Wolof phrases. I use a lot of French phrases. And fortunately for you, there's a glossary in the back, so you can continue practicing if you'd like to. Okay, one more thing which is very essential to Senegalese life is ataya, nanataya, which is the tea ceremony. So we're about to go into that. Bear with me just a second.
Banana.
Lala.
Teranga, or hospitality in Senegal, is a major part of daily life. It's traditional Senegalese custom to welcome guests into one's home, and the local tea, ataya, plays a role in that welcome. The attire ritual creates a time where friends, family, and guests gather together for informal chat, laughs, and storytelling. Legend has it that the first round of ataya, bitter and strong, represents the beginning of life and the challenges of growing up. The second round, now sweeter, symbolizes the middle of life and the joys of love and marriage. The final round is the sweetest and weakest, the grace of old age. And here in Senegal, they really know how to live.
So that tea ceremony, you're seeing it for the first time, believe me, it's a daily occurrence and it's 3 rounds. And you always try to have the perfect tea service, but someone will always criticize your tea. Either it's not sweet enough or it's not bitter enough or it's too sweet, and so you practice as an outsider getting that perfect elusive tea ceremony, which is never going to come. Also, the foam on the top of it is called puri. And so you have to make sure that you have a head of foam. And so you have to lift the teapot up high and make sure that it pours slowly into the glass so that it will foam up. And if your tea does not have the proper head of foam in it, it's not a good service again. So you'll try it again tomorrow. All right. One more before I start the reading. And this is about the national dish. And it's just visual. And the national dish is called cheboujen. Okay, everyone has their own recipe. Okay, cheboujen à la Saint-Louisienne, St. Louis style, Saint Louis is stuffed. It's farci. Okay, other people just simply it's jollof rice, which Senegal had the original jollof rice. Everyone else has claimed it, but Senegal it comes from the word wolof. Okay, which is the primary ethnic group of Senegal. And it's spread across West Africa with jollof and became jollof rice. But of course, the coast of Africa was where the rice cultivators were, and it wasn't in the interior because it doesn't grow inland. So jollof rice spread from Senegal to all throughout West Africa. Now everyone claims it. Nigerians claim it, Ghanaians claim it, but it's originally Senegalese, jollof rice. And by the way, if you ever get a chance to have some Senegalese cuisine, it's very good. I think that if more people were exposed to it, would have much more popularity. It's very diverse and very rich cuisine. Okay, so let's go to it. Hold on just a second, please. All right, so let's get started. So Batu eventually winds up working for the Minister of Development. And this is a job that she gets after going to seek, after a flood, she goes to get building materials for the flood victims and help for the flood victims. And so she's living in shantytown with her child. And as she goes there, the Minister of Development, who's a very corrupt guy, makes a move on her and decides to take her into his house as his maid so he can also have his way with her on a daily basis. This situation isn't uncommon in Africa or isn't particular to just Africa. That situation occurs worldwide where people can exploit feminine labor. Okay, so this is one of her days. Mariama is Musa's wife, and he's actually brought in Fatu to be the maid, the household maid, because Mariama has run, his wife has run off the previous maid who he was having an affair with. So now he's brought in Fatu to replace the maid that his wife has just run off. She knows, but then she doesn't know, his wife that is, exactly what's going on, but she has an idea. So she's abusive towards Fatu. All right. Finding time again made her discover things about okay, let's start here. Sometimes she felt sorry for Madame. She was, after all, having an affair with her husband under her roof, although reluctantly. Most of the time, she thought about Isatu, Rama, and Awa, and the notion of time had refined to get her by. Every 2 weeks, Kanjua, like the teacher used to stress with the crisp accent of Norman nobility, she'd visit Shantytown. Time meant counting days more than minutes and hours until she'd see her loved one. Once with them, it was the opposite. So time was something she did not understand. No matter how you looked at it, there was never enough. Finding time again made her discover things about it she did not remember from the Tubab school, like the number of days in Ramadan when a fast should begin and end, when it was time to harvest, when it was time to plant, what day Tabaski would begin. All this kind of time she knew without counting. As she sat on the floor of the kitchen hut, picking fine gravel wood from a calabash of rice Mariama was making her sift again, she was thinking about how strange it was she had to learn some kinds of time while others she already knew. Without looking at the Swiss clock on the dining room wall from where Mariama was calling her, Fatu would have bet all the money she had that she had been a maid there since a week before Ramadan, or too long, that it was her third day without proper rest, that her next visit with her daughter was a week away, and that it was now the 11th time this hour Mariama had called her, and Musa would be home in an hour and 43 minutes. When Mariama called her 12th time, Fatu raked her slender fingers through the grains dreamily, stirred her thoughts, and found a pebble. She cast them to the hut floor and rose to see what Madame would be wanting, taking the rice for her inspection. No sense in making 2 trips. Calabash as her crown, Fatu crossed the tiled courtyard and entered the villa. The artificial breeze of the air conditioner whipped at her while she unstuck her hot feet from the gelid kitchen floor. The climate change was too hostilely abrupt to be an assault. All the windows were shut, the lunch dishes still on the sideboard. Pushing open the heavy door to the capricious but well-used dining room, Fatu ignored the Swiss clock and the next assault on her feet. The carpet. This tickled so bad she almost dropped the calabash, but it felt good too. Entering still crowned, the dining room where Madame was reigning, she arrived with a twinkle in her eye and a grin on her face, which never failed to annoy Mariama. What are you doing with that silly, lazy face? I need you to go to the market now. Where are those trays we used at lunch? In the cupboard. In the cupboard, are they dry? Why did you not put them in the sun? Didn't I tell you that the trays are always stacked under the sideboard and never in the cupboard? How can I find things if you do not put them where I tell you? Fatu did not know and was not concerned. I'm sorry, Madame, she repeated mechanically. I know you are sorry, but try to be a maid instead. Let me see the rice you cleaned again. Maybe at least that is good. Fatu was decrowned for Mariama's inspection. Good. It is almost clean. Save it for tomorrow and go get 2 chickens and some bread. And some cucumbers too. Not eggplant, but cucumbers. You understand? Oui, Madame. I'm never sure. Have the chickens butchered and prepare them for tonight. We're having guests. For dinner tonight, Madame? Yes, expect 6 people. So set the table too. Use the utensils in the china cabinet. The table and utensils meant nothing. The table and utensils meant 2 bobs were coming. 2 bobs, by the way, are white foreigners. I mean, the chickens are for tonight, Madame? Of course for tonight, hardhead. Now go. Do not leave any feathers to embarrass me like last time. You understand? Go. Mariama handed Fatu the calabash and left her. Dismissed, Fatu watched her huge flat hips swing snappishly away and restrained herself from kicking her. Maybe she didn't. Maybe because she didn't was why things began to happen to her. Things she would surely ask Awa about when she saw her. How come she fell when she crossed the kitchen floor, her calabash spreading the rice like angry wind? She counted other things like this that happened to her after talking to Mariama. Sweeping up the rice, she thought of more. Awa wouldn't know why, but that was still a week away. Making up her mind not to think about time that day, she went to the market, the bakers, and finally the local coop. Picking two ugly fat chickens, both black with white spots, she had them butchered, pretending they were both Mariama. In the kitchen hut, while pouring boiling water over them to remove the feathers, imagining Mariama screaming, Musa entered without greeting, closed the door, and pulled Fatu to the floor, making her aware, in spite of her promise, that it was still a week away until she could leave the villa. She wasn't sure if it was Musa or the smell of the wet chicken feathers which made her hold back vomit, but she knew it did not matter as Mariama would be expecting dinner on time. Musa, relieved, left Fatu and the chickens floating in tubs of hot water like he was leaving waste in a water closet. Suddenly, she did not care if dinner was late. She had to wash her hair, her face, her body, her thoughts, herself. She wanted Musa washed from her. She wanted to be clean again. Since Eve, she had never again felt quite clean. Sometimes between her legs, she thought she could still smell him. She would wash and wash. Then the smell would appear again, this time in her clothes. She took them to the river and beat them with the rock. The smell went away. Lately, she had noticed the same smell, but this time it was when she was with Musa. At first, she would wash because she thought Mariama should surely smell it. If she did, she never said anything. One day, when she thought it was particularly strong, she happened to be around Mariama. She said nothing. Fatu realized there was no smell but just the need to wash. Going into the villa, she entered her room, which was dark and cool, in spite of no air conditioning, which Mariama said was not needed in the servants' quarters. There was a simple bed on which she never slept, a table with a mirror on which she kept her makeup. Her basket still held her clothes. She seldom hung them in the closet. Besides, if she unpacked, it would only mean repacking to take it to Shantytown. And when time came, she wanted to waste no time. Often she put things in it. A piece of cloth Mariama was going to throw away for Awa, some leftover coffee for Rama, a bright colored ribbon Mariama discarded for Isatu. Little things, gifts, things that were not heavy but would bring pleasure. On top of it all, she kept her straw mat, and with these, after sweeping the floor every night, she would make a palette and dream of Samba Jai. In her basket, she found a candle. Lighting it, she found the things she needed for bathing and pulled them out of the basket. She undid her head wrap, pulled her boo-boo over her head, and let her wraparound fall. She stood naked in front of the mirror and looked at herself. The candlelight lifted her smooth curves. The darkness caressed her and outlined her reflection. A belt of pearls lay low on her full, slender hips, rising higher and then cascading into her shaved loins. Reaching to take them off, her hand rested between her legs as she looked in the mirror and almost jumped out of her skin. She was not alone. The man behind her, reaching for her breast, pressed himself firmly against her buttocks. She undid the pearls and closed her eyes. They fell against her quiver and closed her eyes. They fell against her quivering thighs and slid down her legs to the floor. She could not now see and feel him. She did not scream. Samba Jai was no stranger to her. Fatu, Banganek, where are you? I see the chickens are not ready. Where are you? Why? The door flew open and blew out the candle, hiding Fatu's nakedness. Mariama stood in the doorway and Samba Jai, like the candle, was gone. What are you doing? Didn't I tell you to set the table? The chickens are too small and Why are they just sitting there with feathers on them? Get a move on. Do you expect them to eat air? Lady, like, no, madame. I'm coming now, madame. All right. So, not atypical of a servant's life in Senegal at the time. And to this day, most people have servants in Senegal, even what you would consider lower class people or people of not high economic means have servants in Senegal. And that is because in most of Africa, things that people have to do, especially women, are still very labor intensive. So it's not uncommon to find a household in every, a servant in every household where they can afford it, okay? And even sometimes if they can't afford it, it's some neighbor, some child, somebody is conscripted to do basic household services. I mean, it's a lot when you have to go to the well, get some water, water the plants, tend the children, you know, men butcher things, but women defeather, descale, cook. It's all very labor intensive and you will need help. And if you're the only wife, you might start talking to your husband about getting another one because you're doing a lot of work. Remember, out of a 24-hour day, the average African woman does 18 hours of work out of a 24-hour day. That means she's only not working when she's sleeping, if she's allowed to get 6 hours of sleep. All right, so let's continue. I'm going to read another excerpt. I'm going to get out of that. All right. Let's see. That's not it. I thought I put the page numbers. Okay. All right, so Fatu winds up working for, it doesn't work out between Fatu and Mariama. So she winds up working for the Volunteers in Progress as a housekeeper. And Musa basically tells her that it's going to be an easy job. So let's go there. We're on page 142. Later that evening, as they drove up to a large French mansion surrounded by a dusty courtyard encircled by crumbling walls in the middle of TS, the former colonial administrative center of Senegal, which she had never visited, Fatu wondered again when Samba Jai would come to her. Dowda opened the dark house, found a small room, and put her belongings in. They gave her a candle and some keys and said she'd have no problem finding stuff in the morning. I do not know where the Americans are at the moment, Musa insisted vaguely. Someone will come soon, I'm sure. You see how easy? You come to work and there is no one. And they'll pay you. Well, good night, Fatu. They turned to leave, but Fatu stopped them. Where are you going? Is my name Fool? You will not leave me here alone, you understand? You will wait here with me. Don't be silly, girl. The Americans are expecting you to be here, so just wait for them. In the name of Allah, you have the keys. I have business in Dakar and can waste no more time with you. You want me to stay in this strange place by myself, waiting for some people I've never heard of or seen. All of the lies that come from your mouth, why should I? Fatu exploded in anger. And to think I left with you. My name is Fool. I trusted a liar. I was led from my home by lies. Her last words echoed loudly into the darkness and were met by a chorus of dogs barking. Fatu, calm down. This is the silence you promised. Must you wake the world with it? You must believe me, it's all true. Didn't I keep my word before? Say nothing. Say nothing. You need rest and you will see in the morning. How do they say it? The truth will come out in the light. We must go. Here, take my flashlight. It is not cheap, why? And here's the money in case they do not show tomorrow. They won't come tomorrow. I said in case they don't, but most likely they will. Good night. I'll check on you in about a week. Let's go, Delta. Fatu watched them go from the veranda, mute with anger and riveted with fear. What could she do? Accepting her predicament as a consequence of her decision, more than as a result of trusting Musa, she hardened and stood there until the taillights vanished into the distance, and then with the flashlight found her way back to her little room. She pulled all her things onto the veranda and made a pallet in front of the door, which she closed. It occurred to her to see if the keys really did open the door. There were many, but after several tries, one of the large keys opened it and reassured Fatu that at least one thing that Musa had told her was true. Perhaps the rest was, but only the morning would answer that. Outside, she felt safer, sliding the keys carefully under her pallet. She said her prayers, hoping there would be no more lies, and then lay down and looked up at the sky. The stars seemed to be coming from the veranda itself, so intense were their twinkling. She realized that they were coming from her dreams. So she tried to enjoy them for a while in her sleep, waiting for Samba Jai. When the first rays of sun hit her face, she knew that he had been there because she had not been afraid. Hearing the call to prayer, she oriented herself and facing Mecca, began her prayers, needing them to face the new day which Allah had bestowed upon her. Because it was a beginning, she gave thanks. Even if it were the end, she was thankful. Okay, so now the Americans show up, and Fatu has an uneasy beginning with them. Not a bad one, just the uneasy. They're foreigners. These are foreigners like she's never seen. The only foreigners she's encountered before are French. So these are a whole different type of Tuvab or white person for her. And they speak a language that she's never heard, which is English, of course. And they really take what she thinks are big liberties with her. I mean, they won't let her do her job. They're always wanting to help her. So this is very different for Fatu. And this reading will exemplifies that. It shows a little bit of cultural conflict with it. Okay, so now we're on page 175. Okay, so here's a conversation. It starts with a conversation with the volunteers. Actually, let's start on 174. Paul sweet his beer, shaking his head slowly. I knew I should have gotten something going during training. I could kick myself now because at least I'd have a woman and not just pictures of old girlfriends in Chicago. You think you could have gone out with one of the girls from training? Probed Worthington drunkenly. Who? Forget it, man. Name me one babe who would have gone out with you, and I'll give you the name of the Senegalese guy she was sleeping with. The American girls don't even want to look at us when the African guys were around. Hell, they came here for that. Paul, having finished his beer, was peeling the gluey label from the bottle with his thick fingers. Same thing back home too. At college, whenever we went out, like to a disco or anything, what did you see? White girls falling all over the basketball players, the football players. Hell, the jocks, all black guys. The white girls didn't even see you, and you couldn't get them to dance with you even if you bought them a drink. Yeah, I know. I've seen it before. And I know what was going on during training too. But live and let live, it's just curiosity. Shaking his head, Paul freed the label from the bottle and slapped it on the wall. Nope, that may be true in America, but not here. These Senegalese guys do shit for the women, They have something they like. Worthington looked at Paul cynically. Like what? I don't want to hear nothing about dongs the size of elephant trunks either, you prejudiced prick. Oh, hell, get your mind out of the gutter. I wasn't even going to say that. What's that, Texas crude talk? Well, that's what they say down home, quick Worthington. Well, I always heard that everything is big in Texas, so what's your problem, man? Snickered Paul. Go to hell, Paul, because mine begins where yours ends. You still got to admit it has something to do with it. If not, what's the difference between us and them? Those guys poured on, real gentlemen, the whole 9 yards. They speak French and shit, and they dress up and don't look all raggedy. They open doors and kiss hands. Those guys are full of compliments, always flirting. It's nonstop in Dakar, and you know what? They mean it, and they smile when they do it, and the American babes eat it up because they got that charm, that je ne sais quoi. Paul rubs his hand over his swollen, hairy stomach. We ain't got that class, bud. I gotta piss again. I'll be back. Me too, said Worthington, following Paul into the rubber tree. I could buy some of that if you live in the city. If the guys are educated, maybe there's a mystique or an uncertain charm. But in my village, I swear to God, man, it's the exact opposite. I'm not saying they treat women bad, but God, they take them for granted. But Worthington, don't you think women are respected here more than at home? I mean, God, they're revered. They have a place. Worthington finished urinating at the same time Paul did, legs spread to avoid the sure path of the steamy stream gushing from a knot of root. Fixing their pants, they sloshed back to the veranda, where Fatu, Sue, Ann, and Patty were coming out of the kitchen with plates of food. Patting Paul on the back, he answered, my friend, the men here just realized they need women to raise kids. You can make it into any kind of fantasy you want. Let's grow. Patty pulled the table from the front room and covered it with some old wraparound before Sarimata and Fatu placed food on it. Worthington and Paul were ordered to sober up and make themselves useful. Henpecked, they suddenly took chairs from all parts of the house and lazily slid them onto the veranda, where Patty yanked them into place. The table set, without ceremony or saying grace, they all sat eagerly down to eat. The platters were covered with little round cakes of grilled meat, potatoes like sticks, pieces of French bread with cut off ends, and what Fatu guessed to be salad, because she had seen Anne with some vegetables in the kitchen, or at least she had seen her cutting tomatoes and cleaning lettuce. And in fact, Fatu had noticed that Patty had put some bleach in the water while Anne was cleaning it. Terrified, Fatu remembered what her mother had told her about eating with strangers, to watch out for poison or someone doing evil by way of food. Whatever was going on with the two Bobs, she would not get involved in their magic and would trust only things she could. Besides, she had no idea how the food was eaten. Sarimata was sitting close to her, so Fatu watched carefully as she fixed her plate, putting the meat between the bread, then lots of the vegetables, especially the lettuce. Fatu wanted to scream for everyone to beware that the food was poisoned, but thought that if her reaction was again wrong, she looked foolish. Biting her tongue, she watched nervously as Sarimata scooped many of the potatoes on her plate, covered them with the red juice from the bottle, and ate them, making her heart skip a beat. Fatu's heart did stop when Sarimata slipped back her yellow locks, unleashed her ivory teeth from their pink prison, and set them ferociously on the sandwich. Looking around frantically, her heart in her throat, Fatu found them all eating madly with faces of complete enjoyment. Not one was writhing in pain on the veranda floor, and no one had yet to stand and announce Patty as a witch. Fatu let go of the breath she did not know she had been holding and caught Yatma's eye. Fatu Dolek, don't you eat? Asked Yatma jovially, his mouth full of food. This is the food of my people. Patty rolled her eyes with disgust while Paul, washing his food down with the beer, nodded washing his food down with the beard, nodded his beard in agreement. This is what Americans eat every day. Now they were all looking at her, waiting for her to try their food. Slowly, Fatu fixed her plate as Sarimata had, without the poisoned salad. The potatoes looked safe. She had cut them and had seen Sarimata pour the oil from the bottle. Before she could reluctantly taste one, Sarimata stopped her so suddenly that Fatu, startled, yelped and jumped up from her chair, her knees sending the evil plate to the floor. Sarimata was right there with her napkin, wiping Fatu's lap and saying gently in Fula, "Are you in peace, Fatu? Food isn't at peace around you this evening. Not to worry, there is more." More? Maybe the poison was already affecting Sarimata, because Fatu, in spite of their obvious good health and healthy appetites, and regardless of feeding them, stared at her as if she was the clumsiest guest on which they had ever bestowed their hospitality, was not going to eat their food. She didn't care if it was ungracious or discourteous. She wanted to be alive, and her thoughts about the food were killing her. "Excuse me, please," she said in Willow, to the chomping, smacking, and fixed stares at the table. "I'm not really hungry. Please, no worries, enjoy your meal." Using the napkin to collect the food, Fatu got the plate from the floor and cleared it and herself from the table. All right, she wasn't going to be poisoned. When you are in African countries, you cannot just drink out of the tap. All right, you will get amoeba dysentery. You will get amoeba. You will get something. Okay, the local people even have it. They just don't realize they have it. Okay, so what will happen? It can cause you stomach aches, bowel problems, and what it normally causes is loose stools. But you don't want to get it because it is a parasite. So what do? You have to put 5 drops of bleach in a liter of water, shake it up, and let it sit for 10 minutes before you use it. Or you can boil the water for 5 minutes at a full boil and let it cool, and then you can eat. If you're going to eat vegetables, you have to put them in the treated water. Okay, you can't just eat lettuce. You cannot just rinse it with water from the tap because you'll get the amoebas. Lettuce or tomatoes, any fresh vegetable. So what you will do is, once again, you will fill a tub with water. You will put 5 drops of bleach, and you will let everything sit for at least 5 minutes. Then you'll pour off the water and let it sun dry, or you will wipe it down with a clean rag. But don't rinse it in the water because you're contaminated. All right. So that's what that's about. So she had seen her put bleach in the water, so she was convinced that she was trying to poison everyone. All right. That's being unfamiliar with Americans, because the French, well, they're not big water drinkers. And if you drink tea or something like that, or something heated up, you're not going to get amoebas because the heat will kill them. All right, I'm going to go into one more excerpt, and then I'm going to take any questions so we can have a dialogue about the book. And hopefully we'll have some questions from people who have read the book. So let's see here. I'm trying to find out. Oh, okay. You know what? I want to do Worshiping the Moon. Let's go to page 347. So, another volunteer stays in her village all the time. And she also winds up being Malcolm's mentor later on. So she gets some mail, but she doesn't come to get it at the regional house. So eventually, Malcolm takes it out to her with Fatu, and they're a couple now. And he takes it out to her, and she immediately goes into town, and she goes into Dakar, and she comes back with a young Asian lady, and now here's their story. We find out what this is about. This is called Worshiping the Moon. A day later, Jenny, who's also known as Jenny, peeked out of Ruthie's hut and saw exactly what she didn't want to see, a row of curious black dots floating contrastingly in the innocent whiteness of little eyes, peering attentively back at her. The children giggled playfully when Jenny slammed the rusty tin window closed, shut out their inviting smiles, and threw herself on Ruthie's bed. Grabbing Ruthie's rolled up sleeping bag, which she used for a pillow, Jenny buried her face into it and screamed, stopping only when she felt she was suffocating. Then, breathing deeply, she counted to 10 and told herself that she was in control and these people would not drive her crazy. If they stared at her one more time, she'd get a pencil and poke their eyes out. Jenny sat up and tried to envision a third eye, but realized that was the last thing she needed was another eye. So she tried to find a positive thought instead. Jenny was saying a mantra when the door flew open and Ruthie came in with a water jar, whose contents she began pouring routinely into her own cannery in the corner. Looking at Jenny, she flashed a friendly but busy smile. There, now there's more than enough water. Come on, get dressed. Jenny tried to sound ready and willing. Okay, in a minute. Give me a minute and I'll be out. Preoccupied, Ruthie nodded with understanding and rose to leave. Okay, but hurry, we're eating with the chief. Remember, shorts are okay in the hut, but you must wear a wraparound outside. As she left, Jenny rolled her eyes, threw her face into the sleeping bag again, and screamed. Unfortunately, she was not able to console herself this way for the rest of the day, in spite of her determined resolve not to let anything get under her skin. But like the flies in her nose, it couldn't be helped. Jenny wanted to run away screaming when the women in the village brought her too many bowls of the horrid food she swore to Ruthie that she'd never eat. She wanted to scream at the chief for insisting to Ruthie that in that gibbering language that she, who was born and raised in San Francisco, could not be an American, as she wanted above all to scream out her lungs as she murdered individually the various children who stared at her relentlessly as they scrambled about. Instead of screaming, Jenny gritted her teeth and bore it, taking it all on the chin and the rest in stride as she counted the days left until she had won and she and Ruthie would fly home. Jenny was enduring it all until she went with Ruthie and the other women to do afternoon chores to get, as Ruthie kept putting it, much to her extreme annoyance, into the community spirit. Jenny went with them only because of Ruthie's goading, but also because she knew she couldn't stand up and screaming into the sleeping bag all afternoon. She had planned on taking her Walkman with her, but Ruthie had given her a stern look and an even sterner speech on the African way of life. So Jenny left it regretfully behind. Without props and forced to deal with her reality, Jenny watched boringly Ruthie and the women as they pounded millet for the evening. There were two mortars and pestles, so the women took turns pounding, calling with one and answering with the other, making music and light work. It did seem like play, and there was lots of laughter and good fun, but Jenny felt like she did in elementary school when the white girls would take over the hopscotch square and not let her play with them, or when the black girls wouldn't pick her for jump rope, or when the Mexican girls whispered in Spanish. Detached, Jenny watched the women work up a sweat, and by the time the last of the millet was being pounded, the women, including Ruthie, had taken off their tops. Shirtless and free, the women clapped to the beat and chanted, and then broke into excited giggles as Ruthie stepped up to pound against another woman, Anta, who was the best in the village unbeknownst to Jenny, who was growing impatient with the whole ordeal. As the other women clapped and sang, Ruthie called with her pestle as Anta answered with hers, their breasts moving in musical ripples with each pounding movement. Jenny, surrounded by women trying to include her in the fun, didn't understand what was going on and didn't care, so it took her a moment to realize they were inviting her to pound millet. Anta, her firm breast covered with sweat, smiled at Jenny and offered her the pestle. Smoldering, Jenny took it and resisted the urge to scream because she really hated the place. She beat the millet she beat the millet madly. And Anna told Ruthie to tell Jenny that she was a good pounder but needed more rhythm because she was hard to follow. Then the scream Jenny could no longer hold back came. When the millet was finished, the women went to the well. It was a long walk, and so they usually bathed in some nearby bushes and then, refreshed, carried the water back to the village, slowly letting the sun go down and arriving just in time for prayers. Today, the women were feeling playful, splashing each other with water and carrying on like sisters. All of a sudden, Anta ran up and hugged Ruthie, who was wet and shirtless. Ruthie hugged her back, laughing, and Jenny, having seen that look in Ruthie's eye too many times, recognized it and started to scream. Before she knew it, she was in the middle of the women, pushing Anta away from Ruthie. Get away from her, do you hear? Keep your damn hands off my woman. Jenny screamed in English at Anta's confused face. Can't these wenches keep their paws off of you? Cried Jenny to Ruthie. Get a hold of yourself. Relax. It's just a hug, all right? Ordered Ruthie. What's the matter with you? You scared her silly. Good, good, good. That's what she gets for fucking around, retorted Jenny. Now I understand. I've been a fool, a fool. You didn't have time to write me, did you? I can see why. You were too busy screwing every bitch here. Ruthie's hand cut her off as it slapped her squarely in the mouth. The other women shrieked and rushed in to break them apart, astounded at such violence. Jenny tore from them and ran toward the village, screaming at Ruthie. You don't have to write me any more, Ruth. Ruthie, embarrassed by her outbreak, apologized for her to the other women who were busy trying to console her. Anta offered to go and follow Jenny. Another wanted to go and bring her back. An older woman warned that there must be some evil around the well because other women had fought there. Ruthie asked them to leave her alone, but the women were unanimous. They were there for support because Ruthie was their sister. Looking at where her hand was stinging and seeing the fresh lip print in her favorite color lipstick, Ruthie's tears could have filled the well as she sank to her knees at its brim. It was after prayers when Ruthie entered the hut and found Jenny sitting in the dark with her backpack on. Going through the necessary motions to light the lantern, Ruthie spread a mat on the floor and sat down at Jenny's feet. Jenny, come on. We need to talk now, she said, extending her hand and gesturing for Jenny to join her on the floor. A tear splashed Ruthie's hand. Then Jenny, sobbing uncontrollably, gave her her trembling hand, allowing Ruthie to pull her backpack and all onto the mat. Jenny fought to say something, but her tears were choking off all of her apologies. Ruthie eased Jenny out of the backpack and held her in her arms. Jenny buried her face in Ruthie's chest and she rocked her back and forth. As she rocked her back and forth, feeling her wet cries splash on her heart. Hush, sweetie, just let me talk. I know I've hurt you, whispered Ruthie, not proudly. But believe me, I didn't mean to. Listen, Jenny, you are my sister and I've always wanted the best for you. I ruined your life. You shouldn't have left your family, and I felt that if I were away, you'd be able to fix things with them. I was wrong, honey, and I'm sorry. She kissed Jenny's hair and held her tighter. I was trying to give you what you gave me, life. Jenny, I was trying to make things right, but I was too fucked up to know how. Man, my father, my mother, my folks, hell, they did a job on me, but I'm here and I'm figuring it out. No matter what my father did to me, I promised myself, no, I vowed to myself that he'd never get a chance to hurt someone again. But I was wrong. He gets you through me every time. It isn't fair, Jenny, but I'm realizing that it's my problem and not yours. You aren't going to suffer because of my dad's abuse. And even as much as you tried, you can't fix what he's done. I love you for trying and I'll love you always. Ruthie pushed Jenny's face up and looked down into her watery eyes. I mean that. I'll always love you, Jenny. So don't forget that when I say what I'm about to say. Warmly, Ruthie brushed a tear from Jenny's cheek. I'm not ready to go home. I pray that someday I will be, but until I do, I can't have you waiting. Get on with your life. Remember that I told you that I'd go home with you if you can give me as good as I'm getting here? Let me tell you, let me tell you what I get here. Sisterhood. I want to be able to hold a woman's hand and share a secret with her. I want to hug women, yeah. And yes, I definitely want to be with them, but most of all, I want what I never got from my mother or father, affection. Genuinely, the women here are like you. I ask for their affection, and they're so kind of hospitable that they give me their love, just like you. Oh God, Genuine, never mind sometimes the bad crap in my life. I've been so fortunate in the long run. I've had you and the sisters in my village. So man, I've had it all. That's why I'm able to make better sense of it all now. You're all empowering me, and I understand what my father did to me. What's better, I'm fixing it. She held Janine's face in her palm. Janine, what I want with the woman is a caring relationship, a camaraderie, a friendship, a sisterhood. I think in America, I can only satisfy this need in a sexual way. Maybe you can't relate to this, but after 3 crazy years here, that is where my head is at. I love you like the moon, Janine, but I can't hold either of you in my arms or repay the beauty and the light you've given me. All I can do, continued Ruthie, is be there for you like you've been there for me. Ruthie kissed Janine affectionately on the cheek. I know this doesn't make much sense, but it does to me at night when I lie alone thinking about it. And Janine, I do lie alone at nighttime, as I have ever since I came here. Maybe someday it'll make sense to you too. And we'll talk about it again, my little China girl, teased Ruthie, only making Jenny giggle and sob tearfully. Whenever that is, be it tomorrow or when we're old women and even older friends, let me know. I hope it's soon because I'd like to come home someday with my act together. Don't you know I'm a wreck without you? Her arms could have held Janine forever. But when they let go, Ruthie found understanding under the tears in her eyes, like crescent moons that knew her life. Like a sister who loved her, Ruthie blew out the lantern and filled the hut with moonlight, glad the moon was there. That's even how she felt the next evening after seeing Janine off to San Francisco as she rode from the airport through Dakar. As the modern French buildings and mosque turrets picked off pieces of the moon, Ruthie looked up at it out the taxi's window, feeling good, knowing her friend the moon would always be there. All right. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, I want to ask you, I know that the setting of your book was you had served in the Peace Corps.
Right.
That's right. With that was the first George Bush, the senior George Bush. So
Right.
Is it pretty much like that now in Senegal? Because I was very interested in the culture side. I was looking at getting insight. If you think about Africa, you think about just like one place in Africa. I've been to gosh, my senior moment is here, to Kenya. I've been
Right.
to Kenya. I went there a few years back, and I was just really excited about the culture. I'm more into that because I like the history of my ancestors and all that, and there's
Right.
intrigue there. Is it like that now? Because I was thinking reading also about there was one place in the book where where Fatu was going through some type of a ceremony, and I came from that it was like the
Excision?
yeah. And so I looked that up and I saw that it was abolished in about 1999 or something like that, which means yeah.
It was abolished in the sense of that it was legally abolished. Okay, that doesn't mean it's not practiced.
Wow, in some other African countries too, I found out, which is kind of like, shock. You've heard about it, and usually hear about it in a negative light about, when you hear it on the news, on the newscast. But that was interesting, and also the food and the culture itself. Is it in the story that's portrayed? Would you find it similar to that now? I know that they're like they're different. There are people who are poor. They're different, like everywhere. Different people who are economically in different classes, you know, so they can afford to have a maid or and stuff like that. Is it like that now?
Okay, there's been some major changes, but structurally, it's pretty similar. I would say the big difference is they have more technology than they have when I was there.
Mhm.
Cell phones are ubiquitous. They're all over the world now. Okay, they didn't have that. When I was there, there were barely fax machines. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's a big change. They have moved the airport from Dakar to TS. They've moved it inland, so it's no longer on the coast. There's more development, but the infrastructure that the French left on independence is basically in disrepair and it's not been modernized.
Mhm.
So that train, the West African train that goes from Dakar to what is it, the Ivory Coast? Okay, it's still in operation, but it's about the tracks are about to fall into, they're rusting away, and you know it's horrible. I took that train, and that train still is about a 4-day trip, and it's hell.
Mhm.
It's not good. They need more modern transportation. They have better roads, I understand. There's a lot of things, you know, but it would still be considered in development, not developed.
Mhm.
And I haven't been back to Senegal, but in December I was in Ghana, and I actually found some things that regressed. Now they were saying it was because of COVID, you know, that was their excuse. But you know,
Mhm.
for example, I went to Nkrumah's mausoleum, and there was no water in it. Okay, and the grounds were unkept, and every building in Accra looked like it needed to be painted. I'm in touch with Senegalese all the time, and you know, basically life continues in a way that it did before, except it's a little bit more modern. People still have servants to help them with manual labor. You still can find laundromats. You still can find, you know, outside of Dakar, you still can find dry cleaners and places like that outside of Dakar. Um, there's internet, you know, in the major cities, you know. Now most places have electricity. That wasn't common. There's more use of solar energy. So, you know, there's been some improvement, but it hasn't been. Oh, there's also this huge monument that wasn't there when I was there, you know, but it was built by the Chinese. It was built by the Chinese, and it's a major thing now. So I'm looking forward to going and seeing what the changes are. I couldn't tell you precisely what they are rather, but some of the customs and practices that were in the book, like excision, there are still excisions. As a matter of fact, I showed you a video last time about excisions, and there's a group of young ladies that are now going around the country having dialogue with the chiefs and the village elders about getting away with the practices, showing them actually the medical ramifications of having it. You know, but now there's more dialogue about it, you know, but it doesn't mean the practice is completely gone away. Also, you've been to East Africa. Well, there's a totally different dynamic in West Africa and East Africa, you know. And
I'm finding
West
out.
Africa, yeah, you know, but from what I understand, in East Africa, in some cultures, like in Ethiopia and Somalia, excisions are practiced. They're practiced in different ways in different cultures for different reasons, you know. In Senegal, it was mostly, from what I understood, it was an aesthetic thing. I always found it interesting that in most of the societies where it is practiced, there was some form of polygamy or some form of men being absent for long periods of time, like nomadic culture. Okay, so there was something about controlling female sexuality in absence of if the man was going to be away for a long time, he wanted to make sure the women would be tampered. Okay, so they're shown up, you know, point blank. Okay, so that if she does have sex, it will be painful to do so. You know, it definitely diminishes your sexual desire to have it done. Also, you don't have to feel like such a stud if you have 4 wives and they've all had excision, okay? Because clearly sex is not for pleasure, it's for procreation. You don't have to worry about satisfying them or being Don Juan. You just have to get the deed done to produce children.
Mhm.
You know, and she's not looking at it as like, oh, I can't wait to have orgasms within the night. That's gone.
Mhm.
So that's my personal observation. They will tell you different, each culture will have another reason for giving access,
Mhm.
or to what extent that what is actually is being removed.
Mhm. So it is.
Sometimes it's just the outer part, sometimes it's actually the clitoris, sometimes it's just the top of the clitoris. It depends on what culture it is. Sometimes it's left, but it's sewn up.
Mhm. Okay. I find a similarity in some ways, with the Middle Eastern countries. I can't speak. I've just visited one, of course, and I've gone to Lebanon, and then of course the surrounding. I haven't gone to Syria, but I've been to Israel, but I found that they're male-dominated societies, and that's Lebanon as well. Although it may not be like maybe Saudi, where women are, or in Afghanistan, where women are actually made, to dress a certain way or cover their faces.
Right.
But I find that they mostly have, if they can afford it, they have help as well. And a lot of things are antiquated in a sense, if you're comparing it to what in the United States, where the water is fresh, it's really fresh. They raise food, agrarian, a lot of in the villages.
Mhm.
It was just such an interesting trip when I went, and I couldn't take in enough. When I went to Kenya, the same thing. When they did a dance for us, they broke out in this dance. I was just so excited. It was like I just could relate to it. It's like, and I saw the video that you played earlier. You shared with us. It's just almost like you feel akin to that. It just kind of binds you, reaching out, because one thing a lot of us cannot do is to successfully trace our heritage to see where we're from. And it's just like a child wanting to find their parents when they're adopted or given away at birth. There's always that deep yearning to know, who am I, where did I come from, and connect to something.
I understand that. Yeah.
And you're Senegalese, so you and I have the same.
I'm not Senegalese.
Oh, you're not. Oh, I thought you were. Okay.
I had such a connection with that country. I was really immersed in the culture, and then I messed up and took a DNA test. There's no Senegalese blood whatsoever, and I had such a connection when I went to the door of no return. It was so I was so traumatized, and I could feel it and everything. And, maybe my ancestor did go through there. Okay, I don't know what the link was, but I had no Senegalese blood whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I was shocked by my DNA results. Okay, I wish I had never done it. When I was from Wakanda, I was a king. Okay, but as soon as my African reality was confirmed by my DNA. First of all, the big disappointment was I was, what is it? What was it? It was a huge amount. Let me think. I was 28% Nigerian. I was like, oh no, I have to commit suicide. Okay. All right, then, so that was the big disappointment. Then the rest of it, and here was the big one. I was 19% European. Okay. Yes, I was 80% African, which they said was high for a Black American. They said Black Americans are hovering around 60 to 75%. Okay. I was at 80. Okay. But I was surprised that the 20% was like straight up Caucasian. Okay. Straight up Caucasian. And it was Caucasian other. I had the nerve to be other. Okay. They couldn't give me, oh, you're French, you're Italian, this and that. Caucasian other. Okay. Unknown. But Caucasian. Okay. But the African was something like I think it was 38% Nigerian. Then all the rest of it was like 2% Ghana, 2% Mali, just like all the here and there. It was really Pan-African, but mostly Nigerian. But none of it was Senegalese, not one drop.
That's interesting.
And no Native American. I just knew there had to be some, not a drop. Not a drop. Not a drop. So all of you people that really, really want to know, go to Africa, wherever you feel comfortable, just make that your home, because it could have been from anywhere, and I don't know if my ancestors went through the door of no return. I have no idea from how they left Africa. I'm thinking they must have gone through the door of no return because that was the strategy to take Africans from every part of Africa and house them and warehouse them there until
In Senegal. That was
in
the last
Senegal.
port. That was the last
Right.
point. Right.
Right, and they did that on purpose so they could not communicate with each other and form a rebellion,
Yeah.
which was the mistake of Haiti because they kept taking slaves from the same area, which was the Bay of Bengal. And they kept bringing that type of slavery consistently. So they were able to form their own language.
To communicate.
That's why they had a successful slave revolt.
Mhm.
In America, it took a generation before we were all English speaking and able to communicate with each other. Then we were not allowed to have assembly without a white person being present. And it also forbade immediately the use of the drum.
Because that was a form of communication.
It was a form of communication.
Mhm.
So it would be at least 20 years before we were able, and sure enough in America, it took about 20 years before there was a successful, they claimed there weren't successful slave revolts. Slaves were built on a daily basis, All of a sudden the master's child is there. Well, of course she killed him. Okay, but you can't prove it, All of a sudden the cotton just, the harvest went up in flames. Okay, the slaves were over there and look like, I don't know how that happened. But the president report that, if slaves just laid down and cooperated with you, why would you beat them?
No,
So slavery was labor intensive for the whites all the time. And, they always had to sleep with one eye open. And if the slaves were so stupid and weak, why wouldn't you let them know how to read? If they had ever let the slaves know how to read, they knew it would have been game over. If you were buying horses, would you buy a stupid horse? Would you buy a sick horse? Would you buy a lame horse? Believe me, they knew what they were doing, the Africans they took. They were buying, they were buying, especially in America, they were known for breed. As a matter of fact, in America, they did not go back and forth. They didn't have to, because there was a British blockade after 1803, right? So when the British abolished slavery in 1806, okay, the Americans were like, you know what, we don't need to go to Africa anyway. Okay, then our American slaves are top notch. An American slave lived 20 years. Okay, in the Caribbean, they had a lifespan of 7 years, which means they were more Africanized than Americans because there was a need to go back and forth to Africa because you always needed slaves coming in, which is why Caribbean culture is more African than American culture. But in America, they were Americanized and they were Christianized pretty quickly. And so Black culture is American culture. We should always be proud of our role in this country. There'll be no America. Everything people love about America started with us. You love that music? That started with us. It didn't come from Africa. It was developed in America. We're New World Africa.
That brings another thing in point too. The faith. I noticed that a lot of Muslims is that like Islam, lot there, and I think when and most likely that maybe that's what I would have been. Let's say if could have gone way back in my ancestors, maybe Muslim, but religion was a way of control because
absolutely
religion you teach obedience and to this and you get yours in heaven and you give them another vision to keep, and also not learning to read, because if you read and also not giving them in the land for right now for the longest, and even right now it's hard in some places to get land until you can get it now, but it wasn't easy to get it, because if you got your own land, you're already working and keeping the master.
In America, they didn't like to give slaves land. They like to give them rations and provisions and clothes. In the Caribbean, they could have land, but they will always complain that the slaves tend to work their own land more than they will work in the sugarcane field, and that was irritating. Good. But in the West, in the Caribbean, the slaves had to grow their own food. They weren't given food; they had to grow their food, and they had to grow the master's food as well. Okay, but in America, that wasn't allowed. You grew the master's food, and he gave you rations.
Right, so you can come back to him to be the.
You come back to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Also in the Caribbean, they were less inclined to sell you they kept families whole intact more so than they did in America. In America, they didn't care if it was your cousin, your mother, if they needed to breed you or whatever. You were bred that way. You could be bred with your mother, your sister, or whatever. You know, they were just breeding. That's why it's called chattel slavery. Chattel is related to the word cattle.
Yeah.
So they were treated like animals.
Yeah.
And they were not human beings, they were property.
And they even had blacks as studs.
Exactly.
And it's money, you can actually, like, you raise a crop or something to sell or something,
Exactly. After rice, it was the first wealth. People think it was cotton, but it went in the order of rice, then slavery, and then cotton. But rice was the first wealth, which is why they were starting to bring the African slaves from the coast, because everybody wanted rice. It had been introduced to Europe, and rice was in demand. So the first thing they were bringing from the New World was rice production.
I believe that. I didn't know that, but I believe that Eli Whitney, after the cotton gin was discovered, and they found they could really make a big deal out of this and make a whole bunch of money. Then that went more into forced slavery and also what they call the black trade or the gold trade or whatever.
And by the way, Eli Whitney did not invent the cotton gin. It was a black.
Oh, he did.
Eli Whitney stole the idea.
It
was Eli Whitney's slave who invented it. Eli Whitney took out the patent.
So he got the credit for it. Now, that.
As usual,
I believe you. I do believe you. I do believe you. But they needed somebody to work that, and they found that the Africans were the most. So they started forcing, it was because there were indentured servants before. There are people we have European slaves that came over that worked and paid for their passage over.
Everybody was indentured slave. Everybody,
right, exactly.
And everybody had a chance of freedom before. I think it was in the 1600s. That was the case. So black women. As a matter of fact, the first free people were the issue of these unions. You would have an Irish woman who was an indentured servant with the African who was an indentured servant, and they would have a child together. Okay, so even after it was the racial apartheid form of slavery, where they have African slavery and then the white people on the top. Well, even after they did that, the rule was that the condition of the child was the condition of the mother. So if it was a white woman that had a child with an African man, the child was born free because the mother was free.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It's a tidbit.
The condition of the child was the condition of the mother. So if you had a white mother, you were born free. Okay. Now, could someone steal you and sell you into slavery? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So your white mom had to really keep an eye out on you. Okay. You couldn't just wander around, or you had to live in a community of other free colors. You couldn't just be out in society because eventually someone's going to enslave you.
Very interesting. Interesting.
Okay. Delina, you had a question? Okay.
Can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay,
Okay. She's going to join us over here.
Oh, are you in the same room?
Yeah.
We're in the same.
Oh,
Hi. So I was going to ask you. I was going to say to Pearlie. I sent something in the Zoom chat, and that's the evaluation. It's a QR code, so you can copy it and then you can fill out the evaluation.
Okay. I saved it to my. So can I do it now? You want me to do it now?
You can do it at the end of the class. But I also had a question about who was real, who was the characters. I want to guess. I want to see if we were close in guessing who was fiction and who was real.
Oh,
the book is a work of fiction. I say that at the beginning. It is not a true story at all. Okay. However, 3 characters in the book are real, but only 3. Out of all the characters, there are only 3 that are real.
Batu is one.
Batu is not a real person.
Oh, okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
How would I, as an American, as a foreigner, even as an African man, a Senegalese man, witness an excision?
Oh.
It's made up.
Yeah, but you could have heard about it. Somebody could have told you.
Nobody did.
Okay.
It's totally fictional. It's only what I imagined that would happen in an excision, and just I had seen a movie about it, and I actually had a girlfriend that had one. Okay, okay, but she didn't want to talk about it. Okay.
Oh, dear.
Matter of fact, when she told me about her experience, really alarmed me. She said that when she had it done when she was like about 10, and
Oh,
she
dear.
was taking a bath when she was about 12. Her grandmother was helping her bathe and noticed that it wasn't done right. It was going to take her back to get it done right again. And she said that time she thought her grandmother was like, no, I'm not going to get it done. But she didn't want to talk about it outside of that. It's from my mind, all of it.
I was gonna guess. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Was it the griot?
The griot cannot be a real person. He has magical powers.
Oh,
So are there still griots in Senegal? Delaney is,
oh, absolutely.
Yes, there are still griots.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the keepers of, that's the
Genealogists and
those are the
historians.
genealogists. Without them, you don't
Yeah.
have any family history.
Oral
It's
traditions.
like a storyteller. Yeah. Yeah.
It's more than that.
It's more than it's more that's the
They keep the genealogical records.
right. They know
Uh-huh.
everybody's family history and everything.
Yeah, the family history.
Yeah.
They're like walking libraries.
Yep.
Wow.
They say in Senegal, an old person dying is like a library burning.
Yeah, when a griot dies.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's the only way, I guess, way back in biblical times, I suppose that's the only way before the print and all that stuff, they had to do it that way.
And they start training them when they're like 9, 10, 11 years old.
Even now, I would think it would be horrible. They would be much more accurate than something written. They start training them when they're very young. And the only thing that I think technology will add to that is now they're able to record them.
Oh, there's a chat for people. That's probably 2 of them. Huh? Okay, Anissa was saying. Judy Francis.
Okay, yes. Okay, so what Mark is saying about almost every household has a maid or household help, even a young relative, is true in almost every developing country I've been in, myself as well. This includes Latin America and Asia, but I only know about Asia through communicating with others who have lived there. This is true,
Interesting.
In other parts of the world, in America, we really we learn to rely on our machines. Maybe our machines are our servants, the equivalent, but we have the washer, the dryer, the dry cleaners, we have appliances all over the place. If we didn't have those appliances, we would need a person.
I think there was something else that I wanted to ask.
So you can think about that as you're reading the book. Which 3 characters are real? And
Oh, I'm thinking Yusu
Well,
and the other guy that was.
well, I'm going to have to go with one of the missionaries then. Like
okay, Yusu?
Paul.
No, Yusu's not one.
And the other guy,
Paul.
Sharif or something.
Oh, okay. What?
Because they would
I
have
can't
to,
remember because they were minor characters. So these are majors. You're talking about major characters that are real?
I wouldn't say major, but they're characters. If I can't recall who it is, it's not a real person.
Okay.
Okay. Because I picked those names out of a list of Wolof names that I had.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, when I reread it sometimes I have to pause because it is a work of fiction that I invented. I don't remember the original story. And it sat for 20 years,
Right.
And so I have no idea what, every time I pick it up, I discover a new thing about it, but,
Right.
and I'm amazed that I have that level of talent, but it is a fictional story, but
Right.
there are only 3 people in the entire book that are real.
I really liked how you described Los Angeles. There was a passage where you described
Mhm.
Los Angeles.
And I was new and fresh to Los Angeles
Right,
that time. That was
but
my
you
first.
had Curly. I'm at the.
huh? I'm
Absolutely.
listening. I'm listening. I'm filling out my form here too, but
Go ahead. She's going to read an excerpt of about Los Angeles.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, keep on working in that form. So we want to leave a lot of extra time for questions in this type of dialogue.
Okay.
So, yeah. So if you, how far in the book have you gotten?
I just started the book. I haven't finished it. And also I want to order the book. Does your book come in a speaking form? Do you narrate the book?
You know what? If you download it, no, I wish, because everybody wants an audiobook, including my mother.
Yeah, that's
You know, but I haven't gotten around to it. That's the next thing I'm gonna do. But if you have a Kindle Fire, it will read it to you.
okay. Well, I'm going to do that. I understand that you can get it from the library as well, and that you can. Don was telling me about that, Delina.
But only if it's been recorded, which I haven't done it. It's only an audiobook if I make it into audio. I haven't published an audiobook.
I see. Yeah, you'd be really nice if you.
I would love to do that.
There's a lot of stuff in there. It's a whole lot.
I want to do it, especially because actually I plan on dedicating my audiobook to Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is giving so much, you know, to the community in terms of, I mean, Stevie Wonder is the soundtrack for the last 60 years, okay? What have we given Stevie? So I would love to give him my book as an audiobook and say, hey, Stevie, this story's for you.
Okay, I got it. Let me see if I can tilt this.
Okay, this way, the camera's at the top. Right there.
Oh. Am I on it?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. All right.
She's gonna read an excerpt from Los Angeles.
So Sharif is the guy I was trying to think of. Sharif asked Malcolm, what is LA like? LA is hard, it's so hard to describe because it's so many things. It's tacos and quiche, champagne and beer. It's rich and it's poor. It's fantasy and reality. It's bad neighborhoods, pretty houses, and lovely palm trees. It's being sprayed with bullets and insecticide. It's butterflies, helicopters, and homelessness. It's too much traffic and too little public transportation. It's where every language is spoken, but people don't talk to you unless you're famous. People talk like hippies, but act like mafiosos. It's loneliness and overpopulation. It's like every place that you can think of, but like no place you can imagine. It's a legend at the edge of the desert, just a mirage dreamed by people from all over the world, floating before the ocean on ground shakier than the faith it takes to live there. It's pure folly, and I like it.
That's great.
And for somebody who,
Yeah.
you know, who hasn't been to Dakar, I mean, to LA, because he was new to LA. And this is in the 80s that he's writing this.
Yeah.
This is
that's
LA
not-
today.
Yeah.
Captured it in a nutshell.
That was my impression of it. I was like, what do I, but I was, the character was from LA, but I had never been to LA till I moved here. And I started that book a month after I moved here. And what made me be able to write the book is I decided to make the character from LA. So as I was discovering the character, I was discovering LA at the same time. But I had never lived in LA in my entire life. Now I've lived here for over 30 years. But at that time that I was writing the book, I had lived here exactly 1 month. And I wrote the first 100 pages in 24 hours.
So where did you hail from? Where did you come? Where did you before?
I was born in Chicago, but I was raised in Colorado, in Boulder.
Okay, interesting.
And then my reaction to growing up in Colorado was I fled to Africa. So I joined the Peace Corps after I graduated. I worked in France for a little bit, for about 6 months. And it took 2 years to get in the Peace Corps. And I got a job with the French newspaper. I had a journalism degree. And so
good for you. Oh, yeah.
I moved to, I was working in France when I got accepted into the Peace Corps. 2 times they tried to send me to South America. They tried to send me first to Colombia and then Bolivia. I turned them down. And you had to put in writing why you were turning them down. And then finally, I told them, I was very precise. I said, I want French-speaking coastal West Africa. And they finally gave me Senegal on the 3rd try. And then when I went to Senegal, I wasn't even sure after a year if I was going to stay because they had a teacher strike. And I wasn't allowed to work. They told us we were going to be at the University of Dakar, and we were not. So I was getting ready to transfer to Morocco and have to start my Peace Corps experience all over again. And the Senegalese convinced me to stay, but they convinced me to move to the south, to Ziguinchor. And that's where I spent my 3 years in the Peace Corps.
Interesting, very interesting.
And you're supposed to do 2, but I did 3 because The first year I just sat around doing nothing, but I learned a lot of Wolof, you know. So I enlisted for a third year. So I did a total of 3 years. Before that, to give you some more background, I went to school in Europe. I went to school at the University of Bordeaux in France, and I got a French degree from there, and I went to the University of Seville in Spain. And as of now, I'm teaching only Spanish. I'm a language teacher.
Very interesting. I understand the Peace Corps is a good way to learn a lot about different things and in volunteering. I think that's great. And also your inspiration with by George Bush about the title of your book. You know,
people wanted me to change that title. Okay.
You say he did or did not?
No, a lot of people wanted me to change that title, you know.
Why?
But, we are heavily Democrat, you know, and I wasn't taking a political position with it at all. Okay. But full disclosure, I have been a lifelong Republican. You know, I've been a lifelong Republican. The first person I voted for as a Republican was 1980. What was it? It was Reagan was the first one. Now, have I always voted Republican? Of course not. But as you know, let's see. I voted for Obama twice. You know, I don't think I ever voted for Clinton. I remember voting for Dukakis at one point. You know, but no, I have not always voted a straight Republican ticket. You know, now, am I still in the Republican Party? Absolutely not. I dropped out when they were attacking Obama with Kenya Count, you know, with the Tea Party. The Tea Party put me out of the Republican Party. And about a week later, Colin Powell dropped out. So I said, oh, okay, at least I know what I'm doing. So I have no party now. I just can't, you know, it's moved too far left for me now. You know, so I'm not with the Democrats either. I just vote. You know, I just consider myself as an independent Black voice, and I just vote my interests and my community's interests to the best I can, you know. But when I wrote 1,000 Points of Light, I wasn't politicizing it. I wasn't coming from a political stance at all. First of all, because it's not me, it's a work of fiction. So I had no reason to make it a Republican book or a Democratic book, okay? If anything, I would say that the people in the book, they don't discuss American politics that much. I would think Malcolm would be a Democrat. I would think most of the other volunteers would be Democrats.
But really, most of the people are not. They've been saying that we need to have a third party, you know, and I agree with that because most people are not really on one side or the other.
No, I'm more of a moderate of either. You know, I'm not hardcore either way. I've always been more of a moderate. You know, I've always wanted to take from this party because the right has good ideas and the liberals have good ideas, you know, and just take whatever we need, you know, but.
Yeah, you know, I'm not even sure whether the independent, you know, what's independent sounds good. I like the idea of the word, but even the independent party, they usually go Democratic. Maybe that's the answer to develop that party more so that it can be not so much to the left or.
Politics as it currently stand with the status quo, there's not a room for an independent. Especially since Trump has become so divisive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, rapprochement is going to get us getting back together is a while off. And I mean, we're going to have to go through it for a while because both sides are clearly mad at each other now.
It's so polarized.
You know, it's been very polarized now. So I don't know where to go, you know. And so I'm not trying to go over here or go over there now. I'm just like, you know, I mean, at this point of the game, at my age, I'm just like out of it altogether, you know.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, what I'm saying is that you put up your candidates and I'll just pick the one that pleases me. I'm not worried about the rest.
Wow. Well, I'm hanging in for the, I'm registered Democratic, but there are some things, you know, there's so much corruption in each and every one. And don't forget, those are all rich people. And they're legislating probably to get the voters to follow them, but it's not going to affect them. You think the price of gas is?
No, both sides kind of turned me off. So I just kind of look like, you know, every election, and there's not one election that I miss.
Yeah,
okay, I vote in every election, you know. If you're gonna have the dog catcher, I'm gonna be there. Okay. It doesn't matter what election it is, I go and I vote.
Yeah.
I vote for every election. It's not, I haven't missed one ever.
Yeah.
And I don't intend to. And I always am the guy, I don't want to hear anything from you. I'm the guy that sits down and reads the pamphlet You know, I actually read it, you know, I highlight it, I sit there with the marker, I fill it out before I go in, I take exactly 1 minute, I look at my little pamphlet, and I vote, and I'm out of there. I don't like political discussions with people. I don't want to be swayed, you know, to your point of view or convinced otherwise.
Right,
If I have a real burning question, then I might seek some, you know, some clarity.
I'll do some research on your own because
Or do some research on my own.
con list.
But I don't want anyone to sway me to their side, or I never try to convert anyone else either. I'm just not interested.
Right. I understand. Well, I enjoyed the class. Apparently I missed the class, right? This was your second class. I thought this
This is the second one, yeah.
Did you have it here at Ollie, the first one?
I did. It was on June 6th, and I don't think they advertised this class until Monday. So that's the problem. I was expecting a larger turnout, but I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
I'm glad I'm here too. I got a chance to get all my questions in.
Yes. Any more questions? We got more time.
Oh, the Wolof language is a combination of like French. I noticed that some of the words that they were when they were speaking it, they got
it actually is.
I heard a couple of French words. See, I'm taking French on the Delina right now, and I heard some French words in there.
It's not heavily French. It is pure form because actually Wolof is used in 2 countries extensively. Because the Gambia, as you know, shoots into Senegal like you can think of it as a face, okay, a profile, and the Gambia would be the smile, okay, and the Gambia is actually 12 miles around the Gambia River, 12 miles around the Gambia River. So it's English speaking. And so when you go into the Gambia and they're using Wolof, they pepper it with English words instead of French words. Okay, so pure Wolof is Wolof. It developed on its own, okay? They were speaking Wolof before the French or the English arrived. Now, it's just like, how would I say? It's like Spanglish, okay? You know, of course, you will hear people that speak Spanish, you will hear them drop in an English word. Or people that, or if they speak Spanish or speak English, they will drop in a Spanish word. That's that's what you're hearing. But pure Wolof doesn't have influence from any European languages whatsoever.
And how do you think the Africans felt when they were enslaved and their languages were stripped from them, and they were trying to learn the master's language, and then they talk about us about how we talk and stuff like that? We never had reading. Well, when I say we, I mean, you know, way back in the essay, so I can understand.
Name one other people out of all the people that came to America that influenced American vernacular more than Africa. Once again, there is no America without us. Matter of fact, I will show you 2 examples from the Wolof language of that people they don't know the origins of these words. And they always make up stories about them, but they're directly related to Wolof. The first one is the word okay. They always say it came from okay, corral, or they come from all correct. In Wolof, the word for yes is wow, okay? And come, kai. So we say, okay, wakai, that's okay. That's what the British picked up. Also, the word hunky, they always said that it came from people going to Catfish Row and hunky their horn, okay? Well, the word for red in Wolof is honk, okay? And so I believe the word hunky came from the word honk, red in Wolof. Now, another word, bug. Bug. You're a jitterbug, you're a lazy bug, and bug means to love to do something, right? So if you're a jitterbug, you love to do the jitter. If you're a lazy bug, you love to be lazy, right? Well, the word for to like to do something or to love to do something in Wolof is, what is it, Alina? To love something to like. Bug. I want. Bug.
What is it?
Bug. So a jitterbug wants to dance all the time. A lazy bug wants to be lazy all the time. Now, whenever it's depicted in English, it's depicted as an insect, but it comes from the Wolof word bug. Okay, so those are 3 examples of words that when you look them up in the dictionary, they say unknown origin. But it came from the contact of the British sailors dealing with their Africans and their patois that they spoke amongst each other. So the most American word, okay, because other cultures don't say okay. British people don't say okay. Americans say okay. It's only from that encounter with the European and the British specifically, meeting the African specifically, that the most American word came into existence, okay. Once again, there is no American history without Black history, period, in the discussion. You might have Australia, you might have New Zealand, you might have something else, but it would not be America without Black people.
Isn't that something? There's so many dialects too, just even in Kenya, there are so many dialects. In Mexico, I don't forget how many, just 100, more than that, of dialects in Mexico. So that's just trying to integrate and something else springs up another. Interesting. I thought that was very interesting. Delana,
we added a lot of words. We added a lot of words to the language. We added a lot of food to the diet. We added cooking methods. We added music. We added America developed its soul with us. Okay, it was coming together, and had the Indians lived, had the Indians been included more, they might have left a larger imprint on American society, even larger than ours, but they didn't. So there's no other group of people that were brought to America that influenced American culture more than the Africans.
That's good to know. I believe that, definitely. The food and all that kind of stuff,
Food, music. We were the total catalyst for social change. Just think if there had not been slavery, what impetus would they have had to live up to all men are created equal? We were the catalyst for social change.
Interesting.
From day one, we made them live up to that promise. Without the Africans, that might not have occurred at all.
Yeah.
They might have fallen back into British tyranny.
Yeah, the African Americans are unique in and of itself. They are just unique.
The whole New World experience, we need to value more. You know, we need to not worry about Africa so much, or Asia or Europe so much. No matter how we got here, we're all here together now, and the New World experience was revolutionary. And we all need to take stock of it and be more prouder of it than we are.
Oh, very interesting.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I came. So glad.
So when you finish the book, please go on to Amazon and give me a review. It's on the back.
I'll do that. Let's do that. All right. Thank you so much.
And Delana has threatened to do it. Someday she will. Delana has threatened to go on to Amazon and give me a review. Someday she will. You went to Amazon and gave it to me? I didn't see anything on Amazon. There's nothing on Amazon. You sent it to me, but you got to do it on Amazon. You got to log on to Amazon and do it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to deep dive into this. The topic was fascinating. I was listening in the background. So thank you for sharing all of this, and we hope that we'll have you back soon.
Okay, I would love to come back soon. And please, Ms. Barton Thompson, come get a book.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. Thank you for joining.